Welcome, everybody, to the SoCal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your co-host, Big J Marash, and also the technical director and producer of this show. This show is sponsored by SoCal Classic Car Storage and C-Tech Battery Chargers. And before we begin the show, I just want to let you know that you can just go down there in our right below the video and hit that subscribe button, and also hit that like button if you like what you see. It'll go a long way to helping this show out. So like, subscribe, and also follow our social media pages at the SoCal Car Scene, both on Facebook and on Instagram. Today, we actually have a very special guest, Andy Reid. And no, not the football coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, but actually the founder, chairman, and brainchild behind Isolation Island Concours d'Elegance. Did I say that with enough brevity? Concours d'Elegance.
I think your French is good, Jay.
Oh, yeah. Oui, oui. And now, with French aside, here is my father, Dean Marash, who is the other host of this show. Take it away, Dean.
Thanks, Jay. And yes, it's true. I am your host. You're stuck with me for a little while. But the good news is we've got a very special guest who's going to marvel us all with all of his accomplishments. Andy Reid. He's a certified car enthusiast who's usually traveling the United States this time of year, judging priceless automobiles at various concours that I can't pronounce, like Amelia Island and Pebble Beach. But lately, due to this pesky virus thing, he launched the incredible and somehow overnight success Isolation Island Concours d'Elegance, where he's the chairman, where scale car models are finally getting the attention they so deserve. He's also the East Coast editor for ClassicCars.com and the auction columnist at Magneto. He's a prolific writer with contributions to other notable automobile publications, such as Vintage Motorsports, RM Sotheby's, and the Haggerty Insurance website, and was the auction columnist at Classic Motorsports magazine for 12 years. He's also a licensed independent collector car insurance specialist in his spare time, I guess. And like any good car enthusiast, I've learned he's also an avid collector of not just classic cars, but motorcycles and watches. Andy, thanks for joining us on the SoCal Car Scene Podcast.
Thanks, Dean.
Hey, tell us a little bit about your early years. I mean, you've got all the problems and the promenades that we would expect for this show, but how did you get pulled into this car madness? And was it when you were just a mere lad, or give us some background?
Well, it's funny. My dad was a car guy until he got married, and he had things like he had a 336 Porsche that he bought from Porsche, Pre-A. Then he had a Maserati Birdcage. Then he had a 300 Gullwing.
Man.
And then he got married, and he got Fords. He got Lincolns and Cadillacs after that. So it ruined me. But my uncle, his brother, never lost the enthusiasm. One of my earliest memories was my uncle had a Series 3 XKE and Roadster. And he goes, "Hey, you want to go drive with me?" I said, "Sure, I'm in." And so he goes, "You want to drive? You can sit in front of me and do the wheel, and I'll do the pedals." And I'm like, "Absolutely. It sounds great. You go to prison for this now."
Yeah, right.
And so we did it, and we went 100 miles an hour. And I remember going seeing 100. We goes, "We're going 100 miles an hour." I looked down, and it's 100 miles. I said, "This is great." And so he goes, "Don't tell your mom. Don't tell your dad." I said, "Okay." And so I got home. I'm like probably 7, right? 6, 7 years old. And I go, Mom, Uncle Jerry and I drove 100 miles an hour and I got to steer. And it was like, and he was of course in trouble, because why wouldn't he be? And that was kind of the beginning of it. And I was really kind of into cars from that point on, and motorbikes as well. But I always kind of liked them. My first car was a Fiat I bought in boxes for $400. Because I had $400, right? Because that's what I had to spend, and I wanted something cool, and I didn't want like some stupid, whatever. This is like 80s, right? So I didn't want some terrible hand-me-down Buick or what have you. And so nothing against Buicks, but
I didn't want something with Corinthian leather from Ricardo.
No, I wanted something sporty and classic. And so I got a 68 Fiat Coupe, 124 Coupe, and put it back together and drove it around. And we sold that, got a 912.
Wow.
I fell out of the floor pans on the way home, and it was that rusty. The floor pan hit the ground.
Kind of the Flintstone Porsche, if you will.
Yeah, in 912 Porsche, 912 Targa, soft window Targa, 68. And I fell through the floor pans. And my dad's like, "What the hell are you gonna do now, you idiot?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna go get a job at a Porsche shop." And I'm 16, and so I go to a Porsche shop and get a job. I learned how to weld, I learned how to do stuff, and sold the car, and then took that and my college money and bought a Ferrari when I was 17.
When you say your college money, we need to inquire about that. We do have a customer that took one of his car loans and bought a 260Z while he was in college instead of, I don't know how he paid for college. Maybe he dropped out. What do you mean by college money?
I mean, my dad's name is the same as mine, and he was the co-signer on my college savings account, and I went to the bank and signed both and effectively stole the money and bought a 330 GT 2+2.
All right. That's
Yay.
awesome.
Love that.
My boss from the Porsche shop, who is completely irresponsible, one of my best friends, and he drove me to LA to Hollywood Sports Cars to Chick Vandegrift to buy it. So ultimate enabler.
Good to have people like your uncle and this guy to help
Yep.
you just accelerate into the madness, right? This is incredible.
It never stopped. I mean, I just kept on doing it and kept on doing it and kept on playing with it and kept on playing with it, and worked in Hollywood for a while. Then I worked on the internet for quite a while, in quite a while. And then I got out of both and said, I'm going to write about cars, and why not? People will read stuff, and did that.
It sounds like your life has really just evolved from, your passion in and around cars and your experience in and around cars. And you've just kind of done what a lot of people struggle to do, which is to pursue their passions and connect the dots.
And that connecting the dots is the hardest part for sure, because it's interesting to try to figure out how to do that and how to make it, how to make a living doing this stuff. It's tricky. It's not simple. Like, people ask me, how do I write for a magazine? Well, you go get a job writing for a magazine. Well, what do you mean? I said, you start writing some stuff. Am I going to make a lot of money? I'm like, no. If you want to own an Aston Martin, don't write for a magazine. Get a job that allows you to own an Aston Martin and then write for a magazine, because it's not going to go the other way. You're not going to get this magical job as editor of Road and Track and be driving a DB9 around or a DB11 around.
Yeah. DB5 for sure.
I have experience with that working as a journalist. And I remember people would ask me, well, how do you get a job working as a journalist? You write. Go out and write for a newspaper. And they're like, well, how do I go do that? It's just like, go knock on the door. It's all you do.
On the phone. I got this job working for Victory Lane magazine. I got paid $20 a story.
Oh,
it was just,
that's rough.
That'll buy you more than a tank of gas back then. How do you transition from, this car guy, this writer guy, and then all of a sudden you're going to, you're judging cars on lawns where people have fancy hats and blue blazers and scarves, and you're hanging out with Duesenbergs. How does that transition happen?
It's funny. I was working for Classic Road Motorsports and Grassroots Motorsports, and they asked me, because I had a column there for years, and they had read my column, and they asked me to be a special guest judge. And this is at Hilton. The first real big concours I judged at was Hilton Head. And I think this year would have been like, well over a decade at Hilton Head happened. And it's my favorite one of my very favorite concours. And they said, hey, you want to be a guest judge, a journalist guest judge? I said, sure, I'll come down for that. And so I flew down there and went to the event and judged. And when you're a guest judge, you're kind of there as one and done. But if they like you and you know what you're doing, because I've judged with a lot of celebrity judges, and some of them know a lot of stuff and some of them don't know anything.
Right.
But, I came with a lot of knowledge. And so they called me about 3 weeks later and said, hey, the judges have all spoken. They really like to have you back for next year if you're in. And I said, sure, I'm happy to do that. And so I started doing that. And then I got called from Hilton Head to do Radnor Hunt, and from Radnor Hunt to do, it's a very small community of us who judge.
Yeah, it seems super specialized. So when you judge, are you judging only certain cars that you're an expert at, like Porsches or Delahaye's, or are you judging all cars in a variety of classes?
In an ideal world where the judges know you and know your skills, you're often assigned to a class that I know. Classes I know are, I really know Porsche cars. Right. And it doesn't matter. Porsche cars globally, I know what's going on.
Right.
I really know a lot of Italian marques. Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, Maserati, I'm pretty darn good at. Some British marques, Jaguar, Aston Martin, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, I'm really good at. American cars, I know enough Corvette to be dangerous. But what happens is there's always someone on those teams, whether you're the expert on the team or not,
Right.
there's always someone on that team that knows more than you do. And so you learn from those people. And so they never go, hey, judge 1970s Japanese cars and you're the guy. And there's always somebody, one or two other people with you. And between the three of you, you've got a knowledge base to do it. You can always ask questions.
Right.
So quite honestly, Concours judging is easy. You say, tell me about your car. And then you stop talking. And they tell you invariably everything that's right with the car, and they tell you everything that's wrong.
So sometimes people lose just by telling you too much.
Yeah. I've guided I've got a lot of collectors who I insure who are clients, and I'm like,
Right.
I've walked them through Pebble. I'm like, now listen to what I'm telling you and stop talking. And they're all type A. I'm like, just shut up for a second and listen to me. Don't ever volunteer information unless it's a really good story. Only answer the questions asked in the shortest answer you can give them. Unless it's a really good story that Greta Garbo owned this car in 62. That's a good story. If it's not that story, don't tell another.
If
It got crashed in
Elvis Presley didn't drive it, we're not interested.
Yeah, don't say it was crashed in 2005 and rebodied. Don't if they don't ask you that, don't offer it up.
Yeah, those aren't original fenders,
They do every time. It's so easy. Just
Hilarious.
Sit back and write notes.
So what's the best part of these Concours? We've been to a couple. We've got the La Jolla Concours d'Elegance here, which is a pretty good one. And Jason and I have been coveting to get to Pebble Beach, but it got canceled this year. We were definitely, but what's the best part? Is it the cars? Is it the people? Is it the fancy dogs? And, the fancy dogs are all over the place now. What kind of stories do you have from this stuff? What don't people know, I guess, is the question for me.
It is the people for certain. I always say that the whole car hobby itself is a catalyst for the friend group that's around it. And you make my bestest, greatest, most important friends in my life are pretty much from the car hobby. And I've met them through car events. And the other thing that's really neat is, and this is specific to a Concours like Amelia Island. Amelia Island tends to attract every famous race car driver you've ever heard of, every famous designer you've ever heard of, all in one place. And you get to meet your heroes. And you can have lunch, you can have drinks with David Hobbs or Brian Redman or, Jackie Ickx. And that's fantastic. For someone who grew up with just addicted to cars and racing like me, it's pretty astounding. And the funny part is, 5, 6, 7 years later, they're friends. And it's like, wow, I'm friends with Bobby Rahal. How did that happen? And but it does. And it's really the neatest part is that my heroes of my childhood are now pals and in my phone. Wow. It's bizarre.
What a life. Well, we feel the same way. We've had in our short life as podcasters, we've been doing the show for about 8 or 9 months now. And we met some incredible people, but we stay in touch with them, obviously mostly through social media, but once in a while we call each other. But it's just great. It really opens up some doors and builds some friendships that you just never imagine that you'd have. And congratulations to all your success.
Thank you.
So COVID-19, we never, we haven't been able to leave that off the docket on any of these podcasts since March, really. And the pandemic's obviously been very difficult for many people, and it's had tremendous impact on the car scene as well. How's it affected you, particularly in the area of Concours, that you'd normally be attending this time of year? What impacts that had on you and the people that you're hanging around?
Tremendous. I think I'm starting to define this year as before Amelia Island and after Amelia Island, because after Amelia Island, everything stopped. We just heard today, the last Concours I judged this year that it was still on the roster to judge was Chattanooga, and they just canceled that.
Oh man. So
of the 15 events I would be judging and going to this year, there are 0 anymore.
Oh. Wow.
It's been a tremendous impact. What's funny is people are still buying cars. They are still selling cars. They are still restoring cars. They're starting to use cars, which is nice because I'm a Concours judge, but I love to drive cars more than show cars. And I've shown, but it's more fun to go on a drive or a rally or drive something cross country you never should drive cross country or something. Because
we're going to talk more about that later. I think the all significant events in life and certainly in the world, like the pandemic, are driving the necessity of, necessity is really the mother of invention here. And I think we're going to talk about some examples from our experience based on these podcasts. And, your whole Concours is probably a function of that as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Jason, why don't you share with the good folks about how SeaTech keeps all of the wonderful cars ready to go here at SoCal Classic Car Storage?
Oh, yeah, for sure. From the Concours quality cars to the everyday daily drivers here at SoCal Classic Car Storage, they are all powered by SeaTech battery chargers. And if you're looking for a smarter way to charge your car's battery, our friends at SeaTech lead the way in the care and maintenance of vehicle batteries. SeaTech's unparalleled knowledge and continuous investment in innovation means they offer high-quality, reliable chargers that are effective, easy to use, and most importantly, safe for the user and their car's electric system. The quality of SeaTech's products make them the trusted company of the world's most recognizable car brands, including Audi, Bentley, BMW, Corvette, Ford, Ferrari, Maserati, Mercedes, Porsche, and much more. Get yours today at smartercharger.com.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Back to you, Andy. Can you connect the dots a little bit, speaking of connecting dots, on how the lack of face-to-face events, particularly Concours that you mentioned, and now how that hatched this incredible Isolation Island Concours, where these model cars are being judged? I watched you live on Facebook a couple, 3 days ago, and I was just like blown away. But anyway, I won't give it away. But tell us how this happened.
Yes. So this is in March, and we'd seen a bunch of cancellations in a row. And I was talking to my friend Gwen, who's the chairman of PCA, Porsche Club of America, and us sponsor the Concours as well, which is nice. Thank you, Vu. And he did this thing on Facebook where he did a little video of his like Hot Wheels and diecast on his carpet. And I'm like, I can do one of those. And so I put some of mine out there and did a video. He's like, oh, that's really cool. And I thought, this is kind of neat. I wonder what can be done here. And I was thinking, it was like 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, okay, I got an idea here. And so I thought, if you did a Concours of this stuff, like a real Concours, and did it online and had real Concours judges. I talked to like 5 judges that week because everything was canceled. We're like, what are we going to do? We're going to sit at home and read books, I guess, and write stories, or whatever else we do for our living. So I got on the phone and I called a couple people, and I called Ken Gross. He's an automotive author. He said, hey, I got this weird idea. What if I were to do an online Concours of die-cast cars? Would you want to judge? He goes, that's a great idea. I'd like to do that. Great. So I called Bill Scheffler, and he's like, that's the greatest idea. And I'm in, and he's another judge. And I called Bill Warner, and I said, Bill, it's like 9 o'clock at night. I said, I got this crazy idea. And he answered the phone. He goes, I think it's a crazy idea, and it's brilliant. Let's talk about it tomorrow. And so Monday morning on April 1st, April Fool's Day, which is very appropriate.
Yes.
I call Bill up, and I'm like, hey, here's the idea. What are we going to call it? Blah, blah, blah. I got this. What are we going to do? And I kept on saying, I hate being in isolation. I hate being in isolation. And he's like, you're in quarantine. I said, it's isolation. And he's like, why don't we call the damn thing Isolation Island? And I said, that's it. And so
marketing genius, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thickest Rolodex in the business, and the nicest, most generous guy with his time. He's one of my 3 guys on my board of advisors. So I said, okay. And so I talked to my friend Matt, and I said, hey, can you create a logo for me? And he goes, sure. And so that day he created a logo, which is our logo.
You want to flash it for everybody? I mean, it's
got a thing of it here. I'll use my credential. We have credentials. This is the last credential most people are going to get this year too, by the way. My judges.
Wow, look at that. That's the official badge too.
Does that get you backstage
and
online?
Lunchroom, whole deal.
Yours says chairman. Even if we got one, it wouldn't say chairman, right?
No, it would say media, and you're probably going to get one because you.
That is so cool. So what a story. So everybody you call says, yeah, let me in. I want to judge with you. This is a great idea. It's so crazy. It's good.
Yeah, I called Paul Russell from Paul Russell & Associates, who's probably the best restoration shop in the United States. And he said yes. I'm like, Paul said yes. And so I'm like, well, everybody's saying yes. And I
Were
called
you
Dave.
surprised that everybody was saying yes and thinking it was a good idea? Or
Yeah, because it wasn't tried. And so I called David Hobbs up, and Hobbs is like, well, I'm not doing anything, so I'll do it. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. So I started the thing up. We posted it up there, and I said, hey, we had 15 classes, which is unmanageable. So it's trimmed down as we've gone. And I called my friend Dirk DeJager, who's a photographer. I said, you have die-cast cars? He goes, I've got thousands of them. I said, great. Can you shoot a car for each class so we can have an illustration? He's like, what are we doing? I said, we're doing this thing, and you're the vice chairman. And there's his badge. I'm sending him.
yeah, show his credentials.
That's your vice chairman badge, Dirk. It's coming to you.
Nice.
And so we put it up there that day, and I shared it to like 50 Facebook friends who were in the car hobby. And that's just said, hey, check this out, like this page. And a day later, we had like 2 or 3 entrants. And then 2 days later, we had like 7 entrants. And then a week later, we had 25 entrants. And I called, and Dirk and I were checking in every day saying, was this going to work or not? And it worked. And after 2 weeks, we had 138 entrants or something like this, some crazy number. And we went, oh, wow. And so we judged it, got it done. We hand out awards. I don't have those awards. I'd show you when they're you can see them on the Facebook page. We made little plaques about this big that are personalized for the car and the owner and the round of the concours and the class. And all that information is engraved on them. They're not just generic. They're special things we've done. And they love them because they're scaled to the car. They're that big. And quite honestly, I had done it all virtually. I hadn't seen one until 2 weeks ago. I was in a friend of mine's office, and he had won and run around. And I'm like, so that's what they look like in real life. It's just funny.
So I got a question for you. Is this Isolation Island, the necessity is the mother of invention, or is this boredom oftentimes creates great ideas? It's just incredible.
I was just bored. I mean, and all my friends were bored, and we're less bored now. Like Paul's very busy with restoration, the shop's open, everything else.
Right.
But we're not traveling anywhere.
Right.
And so they're still in. I checked with them, and I said, hey, are you guys, I'm inundating you, because we did every 2 weeks, and then we did every 3 weeks. Now we're every month, because every 2 weeks is an aggressive pace, because everybody's very busy. But every month now, we do it about every 30 days. It's much more doable by them. And I was very clear to let them know that I wanted to take care of them. And so I query this as judges. I said, hey, what works with you? And so they all said 30 days would be great. And so that's what we've done. But it's just because we're not doing the rest of our stuff and we're having fun. And you've seen the quality of the cars up there. It's
incredible.
The interesting thing about it is the stories people are telling about their connection with these cars are so rich. It's amazing. It's the coolest thing. I'm gonna do a book of it, I think, at the end of the concours and offer it to people with the stories and the cars and the whole thing for each class winner, for the whole thing, whenever, for the whole year of 2020, because they're really neat stories.
I bet they are.
They're like, I worked on the race team in '73 of this car, and those kinds of stories.
Is this concours accessible to everyone, regardless of age and monetary status? How many hours are folks spending on the builds for these things? I mean, I looked at that delivery van or whatever that was that won early on in your live streaming the other day.
Yeah.
With all the stickers on it and everything. I'm like, and the bumper looked like it had dents on it, and it looked like it was, had patina. And I'm like, people are putting patina on these models, making it look like it's a real vehicle. So tell us a little bit about who can participate and how long it takes.
Well, anybody can participate. We have a price cap for you can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on like an amalgam model or whatever else. I mean, you can spend $10,000 on a toy car. I mean, you really truly can. And they're more than toy cars. That's a oversimplification, but you can, on a model car, you can spend 10 grand. I did not want that to be the case. I wanted to make this as inclusive as possible. So our price cap is $350. And we've had people win their classes with Hot Wheels. And then we've had the people win their classes with custom builds. And we've had best of shows that were simply cars that were well presented, that were right out of the box, like my little Aston Martin DB7 here. and other ones that took the DB7 and added interior bits to it and all that stuff. But again, the price cap is set at $150 or $350. And I made the decision no Lego early on. We may do Lego at some point.
I was going to ask you that. I had one of my customers come in yesterday. He's got 2 or 3 really nice Porsches. He said, I just built another Lego, and he's telling me all about it. I was telling him about Isolation Island. He said, are Legos allowed? And I said, I'll find out.
Yeah, we're looking at it. We need to talk to Lego about it.
Okay.
And I want to make sure we put together a thing that works for them and for us before we do that. So, and they're in like Denmark or whatever. So we need to figure that out. Actually,
let us know if you need an escort to Denmark. We're available.
You can't go.
Oh, damn it.
We can't go.
I got to get one of those badges. I think that's, the thing I lack is the Isolation Island badge.
Well, we can sort that out. But no, it's just interesting, and it's thing is, so there is no, and I specifically wanted to make it as democratic as possible. And if you were a 13-year-old kid who bought a Hot Wheels for $2, you can enter it. So, and as far as the time it takes is how much time you want to take with it. Sometimes people just shoot with their iPhone and take very simple pictures, and yet other people have bought light kits to do this, and other people are professional photographers. And the key is two of my guys that are judges are Michael Furman and Michael Allen Ross, who are really well-known automotive photographers. And their key is, if you don't have enough light indoors, take it outside. The key to these things and making them look good is the light.
Jay, isn't that funny? We were talking about this morning, how important lighting is.
Light is everything.
Yep. And outside, waiting for the right time, they say you don't need to buy a light kit, just bring it outdoors.
Wow.
And that's kind of that's a truism.
It's one of the, we'll talk a little bit about, if we have time, your collecting hobby or problem. I have that problem. My father had that problem. And the reason why I bring up my dad is because he was into a lot of things, but this phenomena that you've launched reminds me a little bit about something my dad was involved in, was model railroading clubs, the backdrop and the scenery in model railroading, which it's just incredible. Now I'm seeing that on these slot car tracks, but I'm seeing that a lot of your people are doing a great job of creating backgrounds that look like they're scaled to the scale car. So I don't know, this kind of a rebirth of what people used to do in the hobby scene, spend their evenings working on small stuff. Very cool.
And you'd be surprised. I mean, no one's been more surprised at who's been involved too. You think it was just model collectors, but it's about a 50-50 split between full-on car collectors and model collectors. And even the model collectors have a car or two floating around of some sort. Nothing maybe expensive, but we have people we have 3 Pebble Beach winners who are showing regularly. We have 2 or 3 Amelia Island winners that are showing regularly.
No kidding. Wow.
Regularly. And are very competitive. And funny, here's the best part. You want to know how democratic it is? Of our 6 rounds, only one of our Pebble Beach winners has won Best of Show.
That's devastating for them, I'm sure.
But they did win. One of them did win, but that's how democratic it is.
That's how hard it is, and there's no politics involved. Something without politics? Are you kidding?
Yep, and that can happen at Concours, and I made it very clear we don't have a donation scheme where there's a fund. There's not an Isolation Island fund to donate to right now.
Good, keep it that way.
And even if there was, it wouldn't. My judges, when they judge their classes, I am completely hands off. I pick a chairman's award. That's all I pick. Right. My chief judge, McKeel Haggerty, picks Best of Show with feedback from the class judges. Gotcha. But it's his decision. I have nothing to do with it. The only thing I have to do with is the chairman's award because I wanted to give an award to somebody, and it's my Concours. I'm allowed to do it. That's what Bill Warner tells me.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm so excited about what's happening here. It's so cool. But what's the all clear is given, and the pandemic of the year is gone, let's say it does go away and we're back to face-to-face events and concours are active again. Will we be seeing this continue? Will we, and maybe some combination where a guy like you, Andy's out there judging a full-blown Maserati, and then going over to the other part of the lawn and judging cars, these little cars? Is it possible that there'll be a face-to-face judging of cars, these model cars?
Well, it's been talked about. One thing that's interesting, there's a virtual Concours for real cars going on. It's called Concours Virtual. It's put on by Magneto Magazine.
Right.
There's an Isolation Island Concours class within that real car Concours of the best from Isolation Island. They have to win a best of show or a chairman's award, and they're eligible.
Yeah, and Peterson Museum here in LA is doing something similar, right?
Yeah, but I don't think Peterson's doing anything. They haven't contacted me about doing an Isolation Island class yet.
No.
Another Concours that's really big we've had discussions about having next year a live display of the best of the winners of the Isolation Island Concours at their Concours on display. So we're still talking about it, but I mean,
that's great. I just think that there's no limit to all this. And I want to see the mashup, whether it's virtual or, and even ideally face-to-face, where you're judging these little cars at these big shows in these prestigious venues. It would be awesome.
Yep. And I think that, when we open up, I think if nothing else, it goes from November to February every year and goes online when people aren't showing their cars at the worst case, right? And in the best case, it continues. We're still trying to figure out what it's going to turn into yet. It's still evolving into what it is. So
great. Hey, this is exciting. Hey, Jay, do you think we could get some of those little model cars, maybe some of the winners, best in show, stored here at SoCal Classic?
Yeah, create our own little room.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And you can have photos off the site too, because they're all there. So of some of the winners and things. So.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We'd have to look out for Eric though. He would want to play with them.
Yeah, we've got an associate here, and Eric, to Jason's point, and he's a car builder, Lego guy. I see your point, Jay.
Yeah, he
would have to lock him up.
Yeah, Eric's not allowed. We should have like fingerprint entry.
Fingerprint entry. It's kind of like wine storage.
On mine though, I've got a bunch too, and most of them aren't in the boxes. It's funny because they're toys, aren't they?
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, right.
I know you
to the fanboys.
I mean, it's fun.
But we know
everybody's got to love somebody. Now everybody's like, you can't bag on those nerds anymore for not wanting to open the box. They're like, oh my God, don't open the toy box lightsaber.
Don't break the seal.
Now you got these guys like, don't open the model car box.
That's the other trick. If they don't open the box and they try to shoot it through the, here's my racing judge David Hobbs in the car he was in Cars. So if you leave David in the box and you try to photograph it, we've never had a car and people have entered them that way.
Have they really?
We've never had a car in the box that won anything.
Good. Well, that should be a rule.
You gotta make them take it out of the box.
You can't see it.
Let the car breathe.
Exactly.
So Jay, let's talk about our other sponsor a little bit here.
Oh yeah, let's talk about us. Let's talk about actual real car storage for once.
Right.
This podcast is also brought to you by us here at SoCal Classic Car Storage. We're here in the lovely city of Laguna Hills, and we offer private and secure white glove vehicle storage and an extensive concierge service. In addition to storage, we have expert sales staff like Eric, myself, and Dean, and we offer consignment services for those looking to sell their cars. For more information, visit us here at our location in Laguna Hills or at SoCalCarStorage.com, and follow us at Facebook at Facebook.com/SoCalCarStorage, and you can find us on Instagram at SoCal Classic. So
I want to kind of wrap up this segment on the Isolation Island, but it's so damn cool. I want to talk about it all day. So I'm somewhat in conflict. We got 3 or 4 more areas I want to touch on, but when's the next one online for folks? Where's the best place for them to, get involved? Is it a Facebook page? Go ahead. Turn it over to you, Andy.
Great. Well, it's going now. We launched yesterday for round 7, which is amazing. And you go to Isolation, you go to Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you have to have there's no alternative to if you're not on Facebook, except to find someone on Facebook to post it for you, which people have done. But you go to Facebook and you do a search for Isolation Island Concours, and then we're the only one that's going to show up. And you go to the main page. The first post right now is our video of our awards. Right underneath that is our rules. And the rules are very, very well written, because we've learned as we've seen the questions come in of what the answers need to be, and we've incorporated those learnings within what we've done. So if you go to the first post, which is the rules, and you read the rules, you're going to do just fine.
Right. Don't try to sneak one past you. You guys have already seen it all by now.
Well, it's just that they do it wrong, or you don't post. It tells you exactly how to post and where to post. And you have
Right.
Porsches in the Mercedes class, or Mercedes in the American class, and it's like, no, you need to do it right. And so,
Pay attention, people. So switching topics quite a bit. You mentioned this a little bit before, but you're actively involved in insuring collector cars. I believe that's one of your professions. But have you seen much change in the value or demand for classic or investment grade cars during this pandemic? I'll tell you what our perspective is, because we do consign vehicles on behalf of our customers. We haven't seen any significant change. The interest in cars has picked up a little bit. I don't know that they're getting higher dollar or lesser value, if you will, but our view is there's tremendous interest in car acquisition still. But we wanted to solicit your feedback, because you're a professional in this area.
well, I'm adding cars every week to people's policies. I'm adding a couple additions to my guys' policies every week. I've got a couple 150, 200 clients, 150 clients or so.
Right.
And every week I'm adding to somebody's. At the same time, I'm often adding and subtracting. They've sold something and bought something. So the transactional piece of the hobby is going very, very, very well. And it's not, and people go, well, just bring a trailer. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
They're selling a lot. They're moving a lot of metal over there, and congratulations on them selling the company and everything else.
Right.
But it's a very popular site. But there's a lot of hand-to-hand transactions going, person-to-person stuff. And dealers are also selling stuff too. They're looking for inventory. So that's interesting.
Well, one of the things that we've suggested, but it's hardly based on data, but maybe it's intuition. But a lot of people, like car people, are stuck at home, or they're supposed to be working from home, or they were quarantined. And when people have money and time, that's a very opportunistic environment. So I think could be driving car sales, where, if you're busy working 6-7 days a week, and, you barely have time to say hi to your family, all of a sudden you got time in your hands to look for that next car.
I mean, if you're working at home and you have 15 minutes, you might go to classiccars.com or Hemmings and start searching
Exactly
for whatever. And I think a lot of that's going on. All those sites' traffic has just cranked in this period.
Is it really? The traffic is up on the online sites?
Yeah. What else are you going to do?
Exactly.
Well, you should be distance learning with your children and showing them how to master Algebra 2 or something. Or
How can I escape my children with this classic car?
I think there is some escapism, Jay. You bring up another good driver for this insane market.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they're not going to go to school anytime soon. So I think people are just going to buy cars.
Cars are in.
Yeah.
Learning is out. I think that's what we discovered today, Andy.
The thing is, I've done one of the fun parts about the whole hobby for me, though, too, is, in writing it about it, is how, you can see the books, right? And if you were here, you'd see the shelf here and the shelf here and the shelf here and the shelf there and the shelf there of car books. And I'm always learning stuff. And that's the fun part of the hobby, is there's not some single person who knows everything. There's always, every time I go to an event or read a story about something, I learn a new piece, and it might be something I don't care about it, but just kind of cool. Like, wow, I never knew that about this car. And it's neat.
Well, we find the same thing here. It's very humbling. We manage about 90 to 100 cars depending on the day of the week. And we think we know Porsches really well, or Mercedes or Camaros, pick your model, pick your make. And then something comes in and we're left stunned with our lack of understanding and knowledge. But having these cars at our disposal gets us not deep into them, but surface level and an appreciation for all things. One of the most interesting cars we have here is a 1958 dual Ghia, a convertible, black with a kind of a interesting green interior. But the story on just that car and how it came to be, and how it was short-lived, and who owned them, That's just an example. And until that car showed up, I had no idea what a
Yep.
dual wheel was.
The car Dean Martin was not allowed to buy new because they wouldn't sell him one because he didn't represent a good image for their brand, and so he had to buy his used.
I did not know that story.
Really?
I knew he had one.
Wait, was it because of the alcoholic view thing?
I think that was a lot of it. And Sinatra had one. They all had one.
Yeah, the Rat Pack had him. Yep.
Dino didn't have one. He couldn't. They wouldn't sell him one.
Sounds like that.
It's funny because he never really did drink.
GT stuff where you can't sell your car for 2 years, and if you're lucky enough to be on the list to get one, you have to agree not to sell it. Like, okay. But anyway, we appreciate that. And so one of the things I also wanted to discuss with you, and it's something we touched on earlier, is this, this pandemic has, there's upsides and downsides. But in our recent podcast, we've explored that out of the dust of the COVID crisis has come some brand new, cool car-related stuff. Here in Huntington Beach, where Jason lives, is a quarantine cruises. Those show up every 3 to 4 weekends on a Sunday and cruise Huntington Beach and ultimately go through the downtown and on the coast. Those are up to like 2,000 cars now. The C10 cruises are up and running, and they cruise before they hit the quarantine cruise. The online car auctions you mentioned, Ritchie Brothers they've got a only online car auction because we talked to Muffy Bennett about that, and they launched that, and virtual museum tours, and now Isolation Island, on and on. Do you think that some of these things will, have staying power and be with us for years to come?
Well, I hope so, because one of the things I find maddening sometimes about the hobby is I was just talking about this with somebody else. The idea you buy a car and don't drive it because it's worth more not to drive it. Low mile, modern, rare Porsches.
Trailer Queens.
You got it. The most fun for me are these cars to drive them, because driving a car, 1967 Porsche 911S, it's a time machine to 67, and it's a complete physical, three-dimensional working time machine to another era. And that's what old cars have always been for me. Is I had a Volvo 1800, and I used to pretend I was Roger Moore as the Saint, and I'd have to dress properly for that car. Whenever I was like, I can't wear that jeans in that car. That's not acceptable, because Roger Moore wouldn't have worn jeans. And their cars are getting used quite a bit because they're not getting shown. So people are driving, which is great. I hope that stays to be the case, because it wasn't the case before. People were parking stuff and just polishing things. I think that the online auction thing is going to be fascinating because, Bring It Taylor is doing very, very well, but RM is selling on their first 2 online auctions in the 80-something% sell through and 90-something% sell through.
That's epic. Yeah, normally you're talking 50 to 60 or 70%, right, max?
Yeah, but online they're doing 80 and 90s, and so was Bonhams is also 80s and 90s. Silverstone did 94% in England, and they didn't have to put up a tent, and they didn't have to hotel their staff, and they didn't have to fly their staff or feed their staff. This could be a complete game changer for the auction market.
Yeah, and it makes pretty good sense. I don't know too many people that don't buy their cars online if we exclude all these auctions, for example. I think we sell cars all over the world, all over the country. We just sold a 1973 Bronco. Guy calls me up from Arkansas. Dean, I got a lot of Broncos. I need another one. I just need a better driver. The one I bought, I can't get it there. Your car's great. I'll send my guy over tomorrow. Next thing you know, the guy comes by tomorrow. The next day, he says, yep, I like it. And here's the deposit.
So, I don't think I've ever heard you speak in a Southern accent before,
I know that's
Ed.
the best I got. But
that was pretty good.
Shocking how comfortable some people are just buying sight unseen, and I think maybe that is the direction that we're heading.
I put a Ducati on a trailer 2 days ago. For a trailer came and picked it up and drove it off. Sold
no kidding.
Somebody else's bike, and
Wow.
Very little effort.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, I like where you're going with that, because we think that a lot of these things are here to stay. The traditional car show is being morphed. Jason and I have talked a lot about that. We love the active part of the driving experience and being able to have other people engage in the motion of the vehicle. like you said, more of a 3D experience is a lot better than the static walk around the cars that are parked at the show. So I think
And we also forget that it's good for taking care of your car. We encourage people to drive their cars down here because then they'll just start leaking and smoking and all sorts of problems.
What's wrong with
main seal, clutch slave cylinder, locked up brake calipers?
Yeah, rear main. Yeah, we could go on. So, hey, you're currently an editor and a contributing writer to a couple of pubs like ClassicCars.com and Magneto. What's all of the buzz in these pubs? Is it mostly the anxiety of getting our cars out again amongst the masses? I mean, what's the vibe in these publications that you're participating in?
Well, it's funny. I'm actually not, I don't write there, but Classic and Sports Car, I'm their event section, I think, this coming issue, because there are no events. I'm one of their events in their event section because there weren't any events. And Keith Martin
the events
stuff with it because we're the events. But there's a lot of conversations. One of the things is the online, I write about the auction markets for Magneto. So that's exploding online. There are more new companies every week. And there's some very serious players coming into it very shortly. Very serious players. Plus, you've also got the brick and mortars who I was hoping would embrace this, and they did. The one thing that they need to do is that, and I'm about to write this, is they need to make, if you guys have all been to auctions, if you go to a real live auction, it's not just about buying the car, it's entertainment.
Yep.
And it is difficult to entertain at an online auction because you're not in the room. You don't feel the energy.
Yeah.
So that is the stumbling block that makes, I think that's why brick and mortar auctions will still be here too. And I'm going to writing about that this week.
I think it's great. We had Muffy Bennett on as our guest, and she works for Leak and Ritchie Brothers and does some work as well for, I think, Macom. And one of the things we wanted verification. Are they pumping in the oxygen? Are they cranking up the noise? Are these auctioneers just, they're just trying to get you hyped up and, get everybody drunk? And the answer is yes to all of that. But when you're sitting in the bidder's pit, I mean, you get hyped up, you get amped up. I've known a lot of my customers said, I have no idea why I bought that Corvette. I'm not interested. I need you to take care of it, but I have no idea how that happened. But it is very experiential.
Like like auction blackouts.
Auction blackouts, yeah. So yeah, but it is entertainment, isn't it, Andy? To your point.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a client in mine in Kentucky, and he wanted me to buy a Cord 812 for him this year in Arizona. And I'm like, we looked at a friend of mine and I who was a Mark expert, looked at it and said, wow, it's that good, Chip. You should buy this thing. And we bought it, and it was through some very aggressive bidding and some very aggressive close bids. And he was pumped. I was on the phone with him. I was pumped. I yelled, was happy at an RM auction. You're not supposed to yell at RM auction, but I always do. It was fun I was sitting next to Bill Warner. It was fun for myself. It was fun for the guy that got the car. It was fun for Bill Warner and his friends. It was fun for my friends behind me. It was fun for Ramsey Potts, my bidding assistant. It was fun for everybody. And in an ideal situation with a sale at an auction, it's contagious. So, and it makes it's that energy in the room, and that energy in the room is so fun to be around. So,
well, Jason's been watching soccer lately. It's back, but they're pumping in the track from a previous soccer game when it was live, and so maybe that's what we got to do. Got to synthesize something in there. Well, I'm sure they'll figure this stuff out if this keeps going.
They will.
So, hey, one of the other things I'm very curious about, you've lived on the West Coast, now you're on the East Coast in Connecticut. What's the difference between the East Coast car scene and the West Coast or the SoCal car scene?
Well, it's funny. Yeah. So I've lived in Northern and Southern as well as out here now. And when I lived in Northern California specifically, because I had a lot more car time there, if it was a rainy day, people wouldn't take their cars out. It's raining. I can't take my car. And even more so in Southern Cal, right? I can't take my 1988 Porsche 911 out because it's raining.
That's true. Not even a sprinkle here.
So the first year we were here, I was on a rally that a friend of mine runs, a little spring rally, start the hobby rally out of you meet at his house, big house, and you go on a little, 50-mile run, and it's dumping rain. I'm like, they're not going to show up. So I show up because I figure, what the heck? And next to me is a 250 California Spider.
No kidding.
In the pouring rain. And then there's three other Ferraris that, $10 million plus Ferraris. And I'm like, So this is how they do it out here. And it really is. Those guys, as long as if it's just raining, they don't care. If it's snowing, it's not coming outside. But those guys are much more hands-on users of very, very heavy metal, and they don't seem to care about the rain at all. So
wow, that's just shocking.
makes us here in SoCal look pretty weak
Spoiled?
and soft.
yeah.
Well, I think spoil's a good word, but we run this business, and some days it's really busy when the weather's right. Like right now, we've been very busy with people taking their cars out for a weekend or a week, but if it's misty, forget it. Nobody's showing up.
Yeah.
Not even a slight mist, a little bit of that. Forget it.
We have to get real creative to find things to do at the office on rainy days.
Well, that's why these podcasts come in so darn handy.
I think we created the podcast just because we were bored.
Well, I think it's like Isolation Island. You got a rainy day or, something that, you can't control the environment. And so you got to do something, right?
Yep. And I just can't believe we got to where we are. Now we're sponsored by Haggerty, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, Corvettes at Carlisle, Motorology.
What a story.
Sport and Specialty Restorations. We've got tons of sponsors. It's astounding. And when we started, we're like, hey, maybe this will work.
The nice thing is we don't have to come to Connecticut to participate in this incredible movement. We're on Facebook, Jason and I, and we're all in. And I'm thinking about competing at some point, Jay. Be ready.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've got people as far away as Australia, India, China. It's literally a worldwide phenomenon. It's really neat.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's in your garage? Maybe we got a wrap here. We're running out of time, but we need to know what's in Andy Reid's garage. Everybody wants.
So humble right now. A couple of BMW motorcycles and an MGB in many, 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 many parts and undergoing restoration. And I have an MGB GT, so not just the run-of-the-mill thing. And then a couple other things are brewing. So
okay, well, keep brewing. We're excited. I won't talk about my cars. Jason will start picking on me, so I won't do that. But any other thing that you want to mention about Isolation Island, about how people find that? You mentioned Facebook and go to Isolation Island Concours, and you're not going to find anybody out there with problem finding that. That's going to be easy. How do they contact you if they want more information?
They can. It's easy. They can email me at andy@haydenwood.com, which is very simple. If they go to the Isolation Island page, my phone number is there. If they need to, they can either message me or literally call me if they get completely stuck. And we have a website too. The website will just direct you, and it has some of the information, but not all the information. It needs to be updated. But you click on the link, you go right to the Facebook page if you get lost. So,
well, we're so pumped up about this story about Isolation Island, and hopefully we can help get the message out and people actively participate. I watched the awards, and trust me, nobody will be disappointed with the caliber, the workmanship, and the vehicles that are being recognized. So congratulations, Andy. It was so great to have you join us today. It was fun, just as I suspected. So thank you.
Thank you very much, you guys.
Well, thank you so much, Andy Reid, for joining us today on the SoCal Car Scene podcast. I think we just hit 25 episodes. So wow. We've been at this for longer than 6 months now. So we thank you for all your support, and you can keep supporting us here, making more content, providing you more videos by subscribing to this podcast. Just click on that subscribe button right below, and also hit that like button too. And, if you got a comment, whether you like what we're saying or whether you don't like what we're saying, we want to hear from you. So just comment in the section below, subscribe, like, do all those different things. And if you want to see clips of interviews that we do here, you can go and visit us on our Facebook or our Instagram page at the SoCal Car Scene. And for those listening out in audio land there, be sure to subscribe, whether you're listening on Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Google Play, or other areas, or if you're on our website, socalcarstorage.com/media. All of our episodes are available to find all over YouTube and on Apple. So just go ahead and subscribe and you can see all these different episodes and all of our guests. That'll do for us here today on the SoCal Car Scene, and happy driving.